What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Full Court Talk, episode 62. But before we get things started, how you guys doing?
Yeah, man.
Good as always, man.
Thank
Basketball is
goodness.
live and strong.
Yes,
Hey,
yes,
both our
yes.
squads got the W at least.
Yep, can't complain.
But we have a lot to get to. So, week one, winners and losers. That'll be interesting. Then we're going to talk about the biggest snubs from the NBA's 75th anniversary team. There were a good amount, so we'll get to that. And then we'll talk about the Suns owner Robert Sarver in the news for all the wrong reasons. We'll get to that. And finally, we'll round out with another front office person, Daryl Morey, saying that a trade for Simmons could take about 4 years. So we'll get to that as well. But who are your guys week one winners and losers? Let's start with losers first.
Mm, you know what? I am gonna say the Lakers. That is the most logical answer. I am gonna say the Lakers and myself. So let me explain. So obviously the Lakers, they went 0-2, dropped the first game against the Warriors. Very good game. Um, but I had them think, or I had the assumption that whenever they got to play the Suns again, they're gonna have that game circled on their calendar. Instead, they got waxed. So that was very disappointing, especially with the hype coming into that squad. Good and bad hype, right? But they definitely showed their age and their chemistry issues, and so that's why I definitely think that they're the team that is a loser. And I say myself because earlier in the season for the podcast, I said Chicago was a fluke, and now they're undefeated. So um, they're going to be one of my winners. But yeah, that's why I wanted to say it myself because Chicago, they're looking good. They're clicking, and I know it's only been 4 games, but yeah, that's why I consider myself a loser. But definitely the Lakers. Very disappointing to start the season. We barely got 2 wins. Barely got 2 wins. Very gutsy wins that shouldn't have been close. But yeah, my loser is unfortunately the Lakers.
I have a couple. I wholeheartedly agree on the Lakers one. They might be the biggest one just because, all the hype. We understood it was a project coming into it. But just the way they look, like they probably couldn't guard us. Like, yeah, like Melo could post us up, Russ would blow by us, but they couldn't guard us either.
They can't.
So there's that. like we beat the Grizzlies because John Morant missed a free throw, and we needed overtime to beat the Spurs tonight. So I mean, things aren't looking good. Game four, we'll see. I have two more in the West actually though. So one, I want to go with Portland. They look terrible. Also,
Mhm.
they they look considerably worse than they did last year. Part of that is because CJ is their best player right now. Dame's kind of struggling. Um, it's pretty much the same group. I know that Norman Powell's hurt. Dude, Cody Zeller is garbage. I was watching the Blazers and Clippers last night. So many times Dame would hit Zeller cutting or like rolling to the basket. He would either fumble the ball, go up weak, not finish like any of those. Like he wouldn't do anything with it. So if things keep going like this, I don't know if Dame makes it to the end of the year. I know he already came out and said uh, he's staying still because he talked with Chauncey Billups, but it doesn't look good. And then another loser I have is Phoenix. They don't look good. They have a lot of off the court distractions going on. It's weird because they pretty much brought back their whole group. I know they have had a tougher schedule, but just in terms of they're the defending Western Conference champions and they're 1-2, and they actually lost to Portland also. So those are my three losers, all in the West.
Yeah, I have the Blazers as well. Same thing as Miles. I think they've just looked terrible on both ends, particularly Dame. 17 points a game on 36% from the field. 0.83% from three. So he's had a rough go at it. He's been not good. So we'll see what happens with them. But like Miles said, I don't know if he makes it through the season if this continues. They didn't do much during the free agency period, so it's just not looking good. Outside the Lakers, this is particularly about Russell Westbrook. He has looked until tonight. He was dog shit. I think he's averaging 5.7 turnovers a game, which is, if this keeps going, it will be his career high. He's averaging 12 points. This is all before tonight. 12 points on 35% from the field, 9.1% from three. And his mid-range is not looking good. Even his percentage in the paint is not that good, 50%, which would be his career low since his rookie season. He's struggling. He's struggling to play with a fully healthy Lakers squad, and I think that's kind of concerning. But I think it's Frank Vogel kind of not putting him in positions to succeed. Playing alongside Rondo is a terrible fit because both of them can't shoot as it is, and it just kind of creates negative spacing for Russ and Rondo. So it's just an awkward fit. I think they need to figure out the rotation first before they start to gel a little more. But then LeBron getting hurt is very concerning. An ankle sprain lingers throughout the season, and I would definitely keep an eye out. And if I'm the Lakers, I don't care if it means I'm losing games. I'm waiting until he's 100% because you can't afford a hurt LeBron down the line. For winners,
It's the same
I have
ankle
the
from last
Grizzlies.
year too.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that's really concerning. So you let him sit, even though he's not going to want to. You need to let him sit. But winners, Grizzlies, particularly John Morant, he has been phenomenal. 40 on the Lakers, that's incredible. They stand at 2-1. They're doing this without Dylan Brooks, their second leading scorer from last season. It helps they have Jaren Jackson back. He's looking good. But John Morant, he's been insane. He's averaging something like 27 a game, really efficient, not turning over the ball a ton. He's passing really well. The Grizzlies look really good. I think they're in the playoff hunt. I think they're going to stay around I can see their ceiling probably being like around the 4th seed, but they have a lot of work to do because they don't have much experience on their team. And I'm not too sure how Steven Adams is going to fare further down the line. I think Valanciunas was a much better fit, but they might have to be aggressive during the trade deadline to make a move to get a better player, maybe a third running mate for a job. But as of right now, they look really good. Dylan Brooks will come back, and I think he's going to be a good fit for this team. And I got my Warriors. They look really good. They're one of the only undefeated teams right now next to the Bulls. I think there's one more. But Steph is Steph. He's the same player. We swept California, beat the Lakers, Clippers, and the Kings. So we're looking good. Draymond is finally aggressive on offense. He's scored double digits in the last 3 games. So he looks good. Damian Lee, 20 points tonight. He looks really good so far. His shooting looks good. Steph's brother-in-law. The Warriors just look good. They're giving me 2015 vibes. I might be kind of getting ahead of myself, but this is a fun team to watch. And we still don't have Clay. Wiseman is still coming back. So this is going to be a very deep team. And I'm excited for January because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But who are you guys' winners?
Well, let me just say I forgot a loser. I want to say the Brooklyn Nets. They
I forgot
haven't
too.
been
Yeah.
they
One of them
haven't been
too.
up to standards. They got waxed by Philadelphia, and it's not looking good for them. But having KD and James Harden, but I understand with all the issues that they got going on. But they'll figure it out, man. You got 2 of the best players in the world, so they'll figure it out. But I can't believe I forgot them. But for the winners, obviously I have the Warriors, but I'm not gonna go into that because people are gonna watch this.
You can.
But like I said earlier, I have Chicago. They're playing great basketball. I was ultimately concerned because of DeMar and Zach LaVine and how they're going to fit alongside one another, but they've made it work. And we asked this question: what is it about Chicago that makes it for free agents that want to come there? And I guess I see it now because the culture is changing. They're playing great. Caruso fits well. Lonzo's doing this thing, and I'm so happy to see both of them do that, being former Lakers. And, they got a good one brewing it in Chicago, in the Windy City. And I think it's still too early to tell. I'm not going to eat my words completely yet, but they look good. And the other team that I want to highlight is the Hornets. They're not just getting fits off, they're winning. You know what I mean? And Kyle Kuzma takes some notes. The Hornets are doing great, bro. LaMelo, man, that rookie season was no fluke. He's just toying out there. He does literally what he wants, and how he plays. It's crazy. He's silky, he's smooth, and they're having fun. I know they just lost to Boston, so they're not undefeated anymore. But regardless, it was still a good game, And so the culture is changing over in Charlotte as well, and they got the players to do it. That young core of LaMelo, Miles Bridges, Terry Rozier, and man, I'll even say it, Plumlee. They're looking good, and so I hope they keep it up. It's going to be interesting to see how they fare for the rest of the season. And the last team, like I said, that I want to highlight, I guess I'll talk about them, is the Warriors. They look good, man. What can I say? Steph is doing his thing. Jordan Poole had one bad game, and that was against the Clippers, but he's bounced back since. And Damian Lee, who actually played really good tonight. And like you said, Draymond's being more aggressive. He doesn't actually look like he's selling games anymore, especially against the Lakers. So good for you guys, man. And I think, like you said, it does give 2015 vibes. They just got to stay healthy like every other team. If once they do that, then I feel like they can compete with anybody. You know what I mean? And I also want to highlight the fact that their ball movement is great. Iguodala coming back was a seamless fit. Otto Porter was just a solid pickup, and Bielitsa, he's doing his thing. He unlocked that offense for you guys, man. It's crazy. He's doing things that he didn't do for Shaq in Miami, and I know they're pissed. Right. And my last team is Miami, or specifically Tyler Hero. That man got a leg tat and started hooping again. Like, it's crazy. He's dropping double digits in every game, and he's coming off the bench. So I'm really glad to see him, actually bounce back, because last season, after his rookie season, was terrible. Like, it was to the point where a lot of people were confused why he wasn't traded. And they were saying Duncan Robinson was better. But let's be real, like, he's definitely better than Duncan Robinson. Shooting wise might be close, but as a player altogether, I'm taking Tyler Hero, and he's finally showing it again. So, great job to Miami, because they're looking to bounce back after, in the bubble going to the finals. So, but yeah, those are my 4 teams.
It's crazy how like on the same page we all are. I kind of have all the same teams. So obviously the one seeds in each conference, Warriors and Bulls. I do want to highlight though even though the Bulls are 4-0, it's against pretty bad teams. They had Detroit twice. They had the Pelicans and the Raptors. I mean, you can only play who's in front of you, but I'm sure that plays a part of it. And then the Warriors, man, they look good. They're deep as hell. That's why you play your young guys when you have a throwaway season. Guys like Poole, you said Damian Lee, like more reps. Obviously, they're more experienced. They're better, and they're more ready to help everyone else win now. I do see them as a playoff team right now. I still want to obviously reserve judgment for when Clay and Wiseman come back, especially see how Clay looks if he can be himself or as close to it as possible. So those two teams, and then yeah, the Hornets, Hornets and Grizzlies, because of their two young stars. First Take actually talked about it today. Who's better, or like who would you take, Morant or LaMelo Ball? It's pretty close. They are a year apart. Obviously, LaMelo won Rookie of the Year last year, but you couldn't go wrong with either. LaMelo's flashier, but Morant just has more of that dog in him. So I'd probably go with him, but that's just because of personal preference. Yeah,
he improved the shooting too.
He's. I mean, I do expect it to come down a little bit because his percentage is pretty crazy right now. But I mean, still, like just watching the games, like when you see players take over games like that, that counts for a lot to me. Yeah. So those are pretty much the winners. We all covered it. I'm just gonna plug the Lakers here. I do hope next week the Lakers can be winners because, dude, this is miserable. So bad. Cannot handle it.
See, all you guys got to do is get rid of Bazemore. Just get rid of Bazemore. You'll be fine. Because he is
such a headache.
He's
bro.
tough to watch.
Yeah, but I just tell myself that at least it's not Kyle Kuzma, so it's okay. Everything's all better.
Averaging 13 boards.
We'll see. Yeah, dude. Yeah. He's not doing bad.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him.
We'll see.
But I will say, the thing about Ja is like his footwork is incredible, and I think that's the difference between like a lot of like slashers. Like Russ doesn't have the best footwork in terms of like getting to the paint or like faking out people. He just is just so ferocious. He'll just throw it down. Ja will do anything to get to the rim, and he'll just pump fake, he'll twist, he'll do anything, and it showed. I mean, he was dicing up Bazemore in that game. But you know how it is. It's Bazemore.
Seriously, you're right. And typically for like younger guards, they just go 100% all the time. They don't have the gear switch. Like Ja already has that. He slows down, goes, Hezi goes. Like, he's tough. Like
the when he had the cross and then the spin and then the acrobatic layup, that was disgusting. Mm-hmm. He's something else.
So nice.
I'm excited to see how the Grizzlies do.
A better, younger version of Westbrook, in my opinion.
Yeah. More skilled. Controlled.
Easily.
Way more skilled.
Yep.
More polished, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But going on to biggest snubs of the 75th anniversary team. This was pretty controversial. I know we talked about it briefly in our group chat. And I do agree with Miles. Most of those guys that made it from the 70s and older would not be on there if we actually went back and looked at the stats, because I guarantee they are bloated as fuck. But my first snub is Klay Thompson. And I think a lot of people don't believe he should be on there because of the stats alone. But I think Klay should be on there. He has a ton of records. The 37 points in a quarter, one of the most unbreakable records. And I think he'd have more three-point records if Steph wasn't in the league. Klay briefly held the most threes in the game, and he has the accolades to back it up: 5-time All-Star, 3-time NBA champ, 2-time All-NBA player, 1-time All-Defensive Team, and he was named to an All-Rookie team. But I think with Klay, I think it's more of like I'm biased towards Klay. Obviously, he's one of my favorite players, and I think from that Raptors series on, he's been he's been a Warriors legend, but like him coming back after that, after he tore his ACL and trying to play, I think that was something like a lot of Warrior fans will always remember, even in a loss. But I think the crazy thing is that a lot of people have forgotten really how good Klay is. And I'm hoping that when he comes back, he'll definitely show a lot of people that he's insane. And I'm hoping he comes back even stronger. And my second is Dwight Howard. I think it's crazy that Dwight didn't make it. His prime wasn't as long as, Carmelo Anthony or obviously LeBron James, but Dwight Howard was one of the most dominant bigs during that time. Obviously, 8-time All-Star, 5-time rebound champ, 2-time block champ, 2020 champion with the Lakers, 8-time All NBA, 5-time defensive player, or 5-time All Defensive, 3-time. I think he had 3 in a row deep boys, and obviously All Rookie team. But I think his accolades speak for himself. There's a lot of players on the 75 list that don't have the accolades that Dwight has. And I think he was one of the most frightening players you'd ever play. In the paint, he was disgusting. Obviously, he was super athletic, blocked every shot going into the paint. So I think it's kind of disrespectful that he wasn't included. I think a lot of people forgot because there's a lot of people that compare him to like Heat Chris Bosh, or like there's players that he don't deserve to be in the same conversation as Prime Dwight. And I did want to talk about Kyrie. Apparently, he was supposed to be on the All 75 list, but he was taken off. People are speculating it was because he's not getting the vaccine. And I could see it because he has the 75 page. So I'm assuming they put someone else on there for him. But if this is true, I don't think it's right for the NBA to take it away because it's an amazing achievement. You see how guys have reacted to it. And I think it's an amazing feeling to have such an achievement. But to take it away because of his personal beliefs, I don't think that's cool. I think that's pretty BS. But who are you guys snubs for the All 75 team?
I definitely have Klay. Klay's one of my first ones, and that's because Reggie Miller was put on this list. No disrespect to Reggie Miller. He had a great and long career, and he was close plenty of times, but to being a champion. But he ran into some guy named Michael Jordan. So, obviously. But if somebody can, like Reggie Miller, whose accolades speak for themselves, can make it, then I definitely think Klay has a better case. And just in terms of what he's accomplished so far in the time that he's had in the NBA, Reggie Miller's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I honestly think Klay is better by a long shot, and so he definitely deserves it over him. And after you sent us that page that Kyrie would have had, I think that's maybe where one of the guards was snuck in replacement of him, because Miles gave a strong case for Russ and Dame over Kyrie, and I definitely agree. I didn't see it like that before, but some of the other guys that were put in here, like I definitely think that you would have made a case for other players. And like I said in the chat, unless it's Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, George Mikan, and Bob Cousy, Jerry West, those 4, the other black and white pictures should not be relevant, man. Like the guys that I named, they're the icons. Everybody else, like, no, man. You know what I mean? So they got to update that. Either make it to top 100. All right. But, I think they're going to make it 100 soon. Because it used to be, 50 during the 90s. They had the 50 greatest players. They gave them all jackets and whatnot. But I think eventually it's going to be 100. But, right now, Klay, Dwight was a crazy snub. He was dominant. And like you said, Spence, like his prime didn't last a long time. And after his stint with the Magic, things sort of never been the same. But at the end of the day, the stats speak for themselves, and he's an NBA champion. And I think that plays a huge role in getting to be a top 75 player. And I have the list with me right here, just looking at some of the players. Like it's crazy how, people like Klay, Dwight couldn't get in. But Klay's still in, man. He's number 77, so he's good. Hey, Duncan Robinson's better right now, man. So good for him, right? But I definitely have Dwight and Klay up there, and I know Vince Carter, T-Mac, those guys were in consideration, but I think they're in the same tier as Reggie Miller. If you're gonna put guys who are just absolute buckets to make it there, and don't get me wrong, their accomplishments speak for themselves, but those 3 are in the same tier. So if you're gonna have Reggie Miller in the top 75, then I think you should have, T Mac and Vince Carter there as well. But definitely my only two that I definitely see should have been in is Clay and Dwight.
To answer the question off the rip, top snub is Dwight, and second snub is Dwight. Like, it's ridiculous that he didn't make it. I think a lot of recency bias was involved, and it's human nature. It's tough. Like, we're pretty far removed from his prime, but I mean, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time All NBA. He finished top 5 in MVP voting. I have here, hang on. 4 times, top 5 for MVP in 4 times, and mind you, this is along with when Kobe was playing, when Bron was playing, Derrick Rose, who's another name I'll get to. Yeah, he was in that conversation. Like, there was a reason why at that time Shaq felt so insecure, because he was that great. And he might have a title if it weren't for Kobe and Pau. Like, that year, he beat the Celtics. I know Garnett was hurt, but still. And he beat LeBron and the Cavs. So that's a pretty big year for him. As you guys mentioned, Clay, there's a case there for sure. I did want to give some love to some international names. Obviously, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Pau Gasol. I know it's not like the Hall of Fame where that gets taken into consideration, but there's no Spurs dynasty without those two guys. And Pau, like, Kobe doesn't get his last 2 without Pau, and even before that, he was carrying the Grizzlies by himself. And I do want to give love to Derrick Rose. I know, obviously, if he stayed healthy, he's probably on this list, no problem. Him and Jokic were the only MVPs ever that were left off the list. So for whatever that's worth. It was just tough because if you look at it, there was only 25 spots because they included the original 50. So you only had 25 spots for players from the last 25 years. Obviously, you had to get Kobe in there, Garnett, Dirk, like all those kinds of names. So there wasn't really much room. The 2 names I could see removed, and I hate to say it. First, Dame, because skill set, we know what he is, but he doesn't have the accolades. And if they wanted to take off AD, I wouldn't be mad at it. He's only 28. Him and Giannis are the 2 youngest on the list, but Giannis's resume speaks for itself. So I don't know who I'd replace him with, but those 2 spots were kind of questionable to me. But I mean, the list gave us great content. We can talk about this for weeks. So
I will say, one person I think the NBA should just take off just because off-court stuff. Karl Malone, man, with a lot of people knowing about his past.
Agreed.
I think if the NBA kind of wanted to say, like, you just wash their hands of Karl Malone, I'd be cool with it. He's a disgusting person. And like looking at the stats from like the 50s, the 2020 is ridiculous. I think I saw like someone average like 2020. I have no idea who they are. So it's kind of hard because the stats back then were so bloated. These guys were like 6'10" playing against like 6-foot dudes as power forwards. Like, it's tough. It's tough to go back and look at some of these names, but the 75 list is interesting. A lot of snubs on there. And it's weird because technically top 76 because 2 players tied. I don't know who tied, but it's interesting. But going on to the Suns, again in the headlines for the wrong reasons, Robert Sarver is now being, I guess, reported on about having being racist and sexist within the organization. And this comes right after the DeAndre Ayton decision to not extend him within a max contract. So it's interesting about maybe it's a coincidence that this is happening, but maybe someone in the organization has been holding on to this, and they decided to finally allow the publication to go through. But it's not a good look. It's a really bad look for a team that's looking to contend, and their contention window is already so small. They maybe had this season. They don't have next season. I think Chris Paul is going to slowly drop off, and it looks like he already is. The other night, he scored 4 points against the Trailblazers. But I think the thing that kind of tells me that this is pretty true is the way the Suns handled it. They came out with various statements from their PR, and it sounded like Robert Sarver was writing them himself, saying like, "Oh, it's all fake. Nothing's happening. I'm a good guy," stuff like that. And then I think the most telling response was James Jones, the current GM. Basically, he just said, "Oh, Sarver's not that kind of guy," and that was it. It was one sentence. It was a waste of space. It was a waste of a post. But that kind of tells me they're trying to get any good guy, any big name, and slap it on there and say Robert Sarver's a good guy. And it's very concerning after this whole thing with DeAndre Ayton happened, and it could be pushing guys like Devin Booker away when he's up for an extension. He is probably in the middle of his extension, but if I'm DeAndre Ayton, I want to separate myself. If I'm Chris Paul, I'm going to want to separate myself eventually. Mikal Bridges probably feels some type of way if this is true. And this won't be the first time an owner has been forced out of the NBA. Obviously, former Clippers owner Donald Sterling comes to mind for very similar accusations. Obviously, his were probably a lot more serious because I know he had some pretty interesting comments, and they were very bad. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But there's a lot of people calling that. It's interesting that the reporter reporting that this is going to come out didn't even write the report, so it seems like he's just trying to get clicks. So we'll see what happens. But what do you guys think about this whole Robert Sarver and Suns ordeal?
Man, you know what? I think obviously I believe that the allegations against him are true because I would have come out from the blue. Aside from the fact that there's been issues with securing aid. And I know for a fact that he's not going to sabotage himself and getting that money, but it only makes sense. Obviously I don't know the whole story, but it was random, right? One day we're all just going about our business, and then you sent us that post, and I was just so confused. I was like, the Suns, their owner, but it's definitely an interesting time to release it, whoever did release it. And so it's just another off-court distraction that might be tied to how the Suns are playing. I don't know, maybe, but at the same time, it's disappointing because, when you're in that position of power, you're supposed to be treating everybody fairly and being an owner for the NBA. You said that he was allegedly racist, right? Bro, I am not sure the stat, but I'm pretty sure 90% of the NBA is African American and or international players. So in order to be that way at this time or at this point in time, it's crazy to me. And the success that they had doesn't make sense if things were to come out the way that they did right now. So as a basketball fan, it's disappointing because it's distracting towards the Suns. It's kind of like the similar situation when the Clippers had with their owner, right? And it created a rift between the team, front office, everything. So you don't want that to happen, especially when you're trying to compete for a title and you have the window to do it after coming so close last year. So for their sake, they need to get it together because, like you said, Spence, it might steer away future negotiations with their stars. I mean, I'm not mad at it because, I want Book to come home, baby. Come home, man. We'll take you. But, they just needed to get everything together because, I saw what James Jones had to say. And it is very, very, very confusing. It took up a whole page, and it's just like it's almost as if, hey, can you say something? And then just whatever it is, just say it, and then make sure it's good, and then that's it. But it's just very distracting. And like we talked about in earlier podcasts, this is one of the most interesting off season coming into the season so far. There's just so many things going on. You got Ben Simmons playing with a phone in his pocket, and then now you have this. Like it's crazy. But like Miles said earlier, for top 20, top 75, we get content. It's not good content outside looking in, right? But for his sake, I hope what they had to say is not true. But it's very hard to go against what was alleged against him. So I feel bad for the Suns, but at the same time, I don't, because F Jay Crowder.
You don't like the salsa?
I don't like the salsa.
When the rabbit got the gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This whole thing's crazy. I remember when you sent it to us, I wasn't surprised, because most of these owners probably have said similar things in the past, whether they have those values now. I mean, like, half of them can have it, but they know damn well they can't go public because they're going to get canceled.
Not Pelinka.
Couldn't be me. No. Yeah. Like, and you guys mentioned James Jones's comments. I don't put any weight on them, because he only joined the team in 2018. He joined them as the vice president, or the vice president of basketball operations, or GM or something. And then he took over in 2019. So he just got there. Sarver's been the owner since 2004. And with his track record of not paying his stars, like, looking back, he paid Steve Nash, but not Amar Stoudemire. A little sus. Again, we should wait for the investigation to go through to really, like, before we jump to conclusions. But for me, a lot of the time, if there's smoke, there's fire. If it held no weight, it would have never come out. So we'll see. And you're right, like, they better get him out of there before they have to re-sign Book. Maybe they can salvage it with Ayton still if he leaves. I mean, like, this isn't as bad as what happened with Sterling. I don't know if you guys remember. That was in 2014. It was in the middle of a playoff series.
Yeah. Yeah, during the
it was Clippers Warriors.
Yeah.
And then, like, they the Clippers threatened to boycott and not play any more games, but they only continued because they did it for each other, not for him.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised this isn't a bigger deal than it is. I'm surprised we don't have more information on it. But once it drops, if it drops, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes back to the reporter. From what I've heard, that a lot of people are kind of giving him shit because it's not even his work that he's releasing. I guess he caught wind of the report, and then he decided to go public with the report, which is not cool because it's not his work. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It'll be interesting to even see if it's even anything bad or aggressive. So it's a wait and see kind of thing, but I could see it being true because of the way he's handled past situations. He's a guy that wants to contend, but he also wants to save money. You can't do those. You can't do both. You have to do one or the other. You can't choose to contend and also save money. But on to another organization that's doing shitty. The Sixers. As a team, they look pretty good. Tyrese Maxey looks really good. I think he's a good piece, but Daryl Morey is either being very petty or he is he doesn't like Simmons that much. I don't know. He said in a radio interview that it could take over 4 years, or it could take up to 4 years for them to trade Simmons. Very interesting comment, since I believe he has 4 years left on his contract. So you know what that means. He's okay with keeping him on the books because he's not going to pay him until he steps on the floor. So it's a win-win for the Sixers. They either get a all-star player back, or they get to save cap, I think like 30 to 40 million on cap. Good for them. They don't have to pay a superstar that's sad or mad. And Simmons gets to rot, waste 4 years of his career in a place that he doesn't want to be. I don't know if Simmons will ever play. It seems like he's kind of motioning towards playing, but who knows if the teammates will even accept him back. I don't know. I don't even know if I would accept him back if I was in their position, because of what he said, what he's done this past offseason, how he handled practice. And Doc Rivers, I know he's kind of like an asshole at times, but it takes a lot for him to kind of throw you under the bus publicly. And I don't know if I could, if I was in Simmons' position, I don't know if I could go out and play for someone like that right after losing against Atlanta, them kind of throwing me under the bus and not even protecting me a little. So I'm on Simmons' side for that, but he needed to handle it better and he didn't. So I understand where Morey is coming from. If it takes 4 years, it takes 4 years. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but what do you guys think? Is this pure pettiness or is it a business move?
I think with Morey, it's business. He's one of the analytics prophets in the league. Because I think on a personal level, the beef is more between Simmons and Doc for the reasons you mentioned. Morey is just doing his job as GM, trying to get equal or close to equal value as much as he possibly can. And I can't blame him for that. His coach gave him a really bad hand to deal with. But as a GM, it is your job to get value for cheap or keep your value or try to get the same value. Like, you can't lose value because then you're not doing your job well. So I feel like it's just purely business. Obviously, everybody involved could have handled everything a lot better. But I mean, if it was petty, I wouldn't be mad either. More content. but still, like regardless, it was a very bold thing of him to say on the record. Like, he did not hesitate. It kind of felt like he had that in the chamber. So props to him for standing up on his ground and saying something that serious.
Yeah, honestly, I think it can go either way. Like Miles said, it was pretty bold of him to say something like that. It does seem like he was just waiting for the perfect time to say it. And I think the reason why I say it can go either way, because like you said, Spence, it's a win-win for him. He has nothing to lose. And so personally, if I was in his position, I would do the same thing, because if somebody's going to disrespect me and the franchise like that, then I'm going to do it back. And that's an example of being petty, right? And so I don't know if Daryl Morey really has a track record of being petty. I mean, I'm not really too familiar with how he handles things, except with, how he did with Harden. But I don't know, man. Or not with Harden, I'm sorry. But it's just, to me, seeing how it is right now, the Sixers are a mess, bro. They're a mess. And it's showing. I just think that moving forward, if it's going to get any better, I think it's going to have to be Ben Simmons approaching the organization, because he'll never get the fans back. I'll tell you that much. But Daryl Morey, the ball is in his court. I think he doesn't have much to lose. So personally, it's kind of hilarious, because not my franchise. Not my franchise.
Yeah, and I think the comments were more like a strong arm. It was like, Ben Simmons, you can either sit on the bench for 4 seasons and become a free agent, or you can come and play and at least increase your value so you can be traded at a later date. But with Simmons, it kind of seems like he does not give a fuck. He just wants to chill. And it's such a slap in the face to Sixer fans. I think I did read that he's afraid to even play there now. So if he does get traded, I don't know if he's going to sit out the games, but he never wants to show his face in Philly again. That's what he said. And obviously now he's back. So I don't know what he's doing. He's a very confusing person.
LeBron could never.
I don't think any of our players could.
Yeah, you should just watch film on LeBron going back to Cleveland. So might help the situation.
That's a good point. Like I feel like there's always a way, because look at us now, CJ. Like imagine telling us 8 years ago that, oh, you're gonna like Dwight Howard, you're gonna support him.
Yeah.
You know? So
yes.
And honestly, yeah, with LeBron too. I hated LeBron because people were putting him over Kobe.
Me
and
too.
Then somehow he won me over. So never say never, I guess.
I don't know. I think Simmons would have to play well, and I just don't know if he's capable of it.
Yeah, like it would take a high leverage, like a series saving moment in the playoffs.
Yep.
But we can't even get him into preseason, into camp, into regular season. So
he can't even get
very far
got suspended before the season started.
Yeah, you got to make a game-winning 3, Game 7 of the Eastern Finals. Yeah, that's all we got to do.
That's asking
if he wants to bounce back. Yep, if he wants to bounce back, like a game-winning 3. Notice I said 3, not a layup. 3.
I mean, even if it was late, he passed it off. So.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I think the Sixers are just a shit show. I have no idea what they're gonna do. I'm excited to see what happens. I want to see how Simmons plays when he gets back, because I know he's not conditioned at all, because he barely even ran in practice. So
he needs his phone.
We'll see. Oh yeah, he had his phone with him, so that was great.
You guys think he plays another game for the Sixers still? Because I don't think he does.
I think so.
I think he might. I think he might just so that he could show, hey, I tried, right?
I also wouldn't be shocked if he just retired, because it kind of seems like that's how his head works. He's like, I'm here for 4 years, I might as well retire.
Oh goodness.
We'll see. Before we go, what did you guys think about Kyrie inciting a riot outside of Barclays Center?
Man, love Kyrie. Confused about that decision, among other things.
And I don't love Kyrie anymore, man. Like I don't. He has that shot over the Warriors. That's it. The rest, I don't care. Like,
what is the last straw at this point? Donald Trump supports him. Ted Cruz supports him. Like, anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers support him. What is his point now? Is he protecting racists or?
God, bro, like I could spend another hour on this. I hate people with platforms who don't use their platform for good. That's why I hate those kind of people. And Kyrie is right there with them.
Yeah,
because he's validating. Yeah, man. Oh God, so exhausting. He should just go into talk radio. He should just join like a conservative or like a Republican radio station. Go on Fox News, Kyrie.
Dude, so I'm actually reading. Sorry, go ahead. Oh no, I was just saying I'm reading a report where they had to put Barclays on lockdown. Barclays Center on lockdown because it got ugly with Kyrie. And that's crazy because that's his home court.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like they're not even supporting him. They're using him as like leverage to promote their point. Yeah. And like if they really listen to him, he's making no sense. He's not talking about the points that they're talking about. He's talking in circles. So they see the big name and they're just clinging on to it at this point. And go ahead.
What's funny too is some of them are probably really racist and probably say very bad words behind his back. So
Look at Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. They're
idiots, bro.
supporting him. So it's like it's very confusing on what's the final straw here? What's his game plan? If he just said he's
Kyrie
scared of
got Kobe
Negroes, I'm
rolling
cool
over
with
in his
that.
grave, bro.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time. Because Kyrie's a hell of a player, but he's not showing it right now. He's definitely losing a ton of fans.
You know what? I take Kyle Kuzma over Kyrie right now.
Oh,
No cap. Not
that's
even lying.
crazy.
I'll take Smiley.
That's crazy. Well, Kyrie, I don't. If Kyrie ends up being like a racist or I don't know, starts carrying an American flag, then I might consider it. But as of right now, hey, Kyrie, I support you not playing for your reasons, but you know, just don't start a riot, man, because people can get hurt. You know, people can get hurt like that, and you know, them shutting down Barclays Center, that's when you know it's bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I need the footage, bro. I need to see what happened. Like, I need to see what was said because I really want to get to know the bottom of what his message is. It's just, it's very confusing, especially after he went on IG Live, said that he supports his teammates. He's gonna do his best to, you know, sit on the sidelines and cheer them on. Yet he's doing things like this on their home floor. You know, very, very interesting decision.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't heard from him since the IG Live, so I don't know if he's planning to get the vaccination. I'm not sure. I would love to understand what KD's thinking at this time. Do you think he regrets going to the Nets? Do you think he misses Steph? Do you think he carries around a picture of Steph in his wallet? He might.
Yeah.
Like that
Or
Wolverine
of
meme.
Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, he might be kicking himself for not going to New York because New York looks fucking lit compared to the Nets right now.
Bro, do you guys see that video? Please tell me you saw that video, bro. Side Talk NYC, bro, that video is hilarious, man. Bro,
I
that
don't
made
think
me
I
love
did.
New York fans. Bro,
Oh yeah,
Mom, you saw
yeah.
that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, that
Bro.
was hilarious.
That's it.
Bro,
Man, that was hilarious. Yeah.
it's crazy.
Hey, let me just say that's how I felt after that first Laker win, man.
Oh,
Facts.
man. But that's
Yeah.
gonna do it for us. That's episode 62. But like, comment, and subscribe. Check our links down in the description. But that's gonna do it for us. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you guys.